What is going on, guys? So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the question of how did railways contribute to unity and expansion. The railways were super important to the overall connecting of British Columbia and PEI. So initially, Prince Edward Island did not join Confederation until 1867. In 1871, PEI began to build its own railway, and that railway went way over budget. So PEI had two choices. They either joined Confederation to pay off that debt, or they had to raise taxes for their people. So finally in 1873, PEI said, okay, we're going to join Confederation. And then on the west side of Canada, British Columbia joined Confederation in 1871 under the condition that Canada must build a railway from Ontario all the way to BC, and the government said, yeah, sure, we will get that built for you in 10 years. So they promised that they would build it in 10 years. There were scandal delays during the building of the railway. The selection of the company who would build British Columbia Railway resulted in Canada's first scandal. So in 1872, there was a federal election, and John A. Macdonald asked for campaign donations. Sir Hugh Allen, a railway builder, donated $350,000 to Macdonald's campaign, and Macdonald won the election. And in 1873, Macdonald chose Allen's company, Canadian Pacific Company, to build the railway. Newspapers claim that Sir Hugh Allen bribed John A. Macdonald, and this became known as the Pacific Scandal. John A. Macdonald resigned after winning the election in 1873. Mackenzie's new government faced many challenges. Canada's economy was suffering, unemployment was very high, businesses were failing, and people were moving to the United States to find work. So the poor economy meant that the Canadian government could not afford to build this railway for BC as fast as it had originally promised. So another election came along. Then Macdonald won that election again, and people really respected his political and economic vision for Canada's future. So Macdonald came out with this national policy, and there were three main goals in this national policy. The first one was complete the railway. The second one was encourage immigration, and the last one was implement protective tariffs. And all three of these things went together. So the plan was, you complete the railway, that will stimulate the economy. It's going to establish physical presence in the Northwest. We'll be able to transport goods from east to west between all of the provinces. That will lead to more immigration, attract settlers to the Northwest, create a larger market for Canada's products, provide workers for factories and primary industries such as mining and forestry. And then what Macdonald did was he implemented a protective tariff, so he heavily taxed any goods from outside of Canada. He wanted Canada to rely on itself. So he would make imported goods more expensive, help Canadian manufacturers sell more of their products and hire more people, and build a market in the east for natural resources in the west. So the newly elected government put that first priority of their national policy to make that transcontinental railway their top priority. So due to the Pacific scandal, the government needed to find a new company to build that railway. So in 1881, the government hired the Canadian Pacific Railway Company to build the railway. The government gave the company $25 million to complete the project. You got to understand that $25 million during 1881 that's like billions of dollars today. They discovered that the region between Winnipeg and Edmonton, known as the Pallisers Triangle, was very fertile and could support settlement. So this meant that the railway could be built further south than originally thought. So as they were building this railway, there was a shortage of workers building the railway. So the government recruited people from China to come to Canada and build it. Many Chinese people who came wanted to save money to return to China when they were done building the railway. And as many as 17,000 of the laborers who were hired were Chinese. They constructed the most challenging and dangerous parts of the railway. One of these dangerous jobs included lighting explosives to blast the tunnels through the rock to create those tunnels, which is very dangerous. So according to oral history, one Chinese worker died for every mile of railway built. And the Chinese workers received only $1 a day. Very little. And that's not fair. while white workers would receive $1.50 and $2.50 a day. So I don't understand that, why there was such a divide in the wage, but it was these Chinese workers were coming over and they were willing to do that work. This is the last spike being driven into the railway. Who's not represented? So we're looking at the photo here. It's a black and white photo, and they're putting in the last spike of that railway. It's been a long time coming, a long time to take this, to build this railway. And clearly there's no one there representing the Chinese laborers. And one Chinese worker died for every mile of railway built. That just shows you how extreme the work conditions were. Watch the Historica Minute called Nitro, and I want you to post your thoughts on Google Classroom. There'll be a question there posed. What are your thoughts on the building of the Pacific Transcontinental, the Canadian Pacific Railway?
All right, who wants to earn some danger pay? Boat fare for the wife. All you have to do is go down in the tunnel with the nitro and set the charge.
And my wife, you pay both? Okay, I do very good. You see.
All right. Now pour it in the hole gently, understand? Any little bump and that stuff will blow.
Damn it, that's the third one we lost this month. Cochran, get another volunteer.
I went back in again, but I lost many friends.
Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on the labor conditions of the Chinese workers and the importance that it played in Canadian development ultimately.